For 400 long years between the Old and New Testaments, many felt God had gone silent. It was a period often referred to as God's silence, a time of profound anticipation and uncertainty. Yet during this perceived silence, God was actively preparing the world for Christ. Alexander the Great's conquests, spreading Koine Greek across vast empires, united diverse cultures with a common language. This linguistic bridge allowed for the translation of the Hebrew scriptures into the Septuagint. For the first time, God's word became accessible to the Hellenized Jewish diaspora and many Gentiles. The suffering under foreign rule, particularly the Seleucid king Antiochus IV Epiphanes, intensified the Jewish people's yearning for their Messiah. Their hope was sharpened through trials. Simultaneously, the Roman Empire was building an unparalleled network of roads. These engineering marvels, designed for imperial control, would later become conduits for the gospel. And across the land, the synagogue system blossomed, creating local centers of worship and learning. These became ready-made launching pads for the apostles to proclaim the good news. So even in moments that felt like silence or delay, God was meticulously orchestrating every detail, preparing the world for the arrival of His Son, Jesus Christ. His faithfulness is unwavering. Imagine receiving a letter from someone you love deeply. They promise to write again soon, and then nothing. Days pass, then months, then years, then decades, then centuries. That is exactly what happened between the last words of the Old Testament and the first words of the New Testament. 400 years of silence. No prophets, no visions, no direct word from God. But here's what most people never realize. God was not absent during those 400 years. He was working, quietly, invisibly, and with breathtaking precision. He was setting the stage for the greatest event in human history, the arrival of His Son. Today we are going to explore exactly what happened during those 400 years of silence, why they matter, and what they reveal about the faithfulness of a God who is never truly silent, even when it feels like He is. The Old Testament closes with the words of the prophet Malachi, written around 430 BC. Malachi 4 verses 5 to 6 contains the final promise. See, I will send the prophet Elijah to you before that great and dreadful day of the Lord comes. He will turn the hearts of the parents to their children and the hearts of the children to their parents. Then the page turns, and for 400 years, heaven is silent. But the world is anything but quiet. Empires rise, empires fall. The Jewish people are conquered, scattered, and oppressed. And in the middle of all of it, God is weaving together the exact conditions that will make the gospel possible. There are 5 things that happened during the 400 years of silence that you need to understand. The first thing that happened during the silence was that Alexander the Great conquered the known world, and in doing so, gave the entire world a common language. By 332 BC, Alexander had built one of the fastest growing empires in history. From Greece all the way to Egypt, through Persia, and into the edges of India. His armies swept through nation after nation. But his most lasting conquest was not military, it was cultural. Everywhere Alexander's empire reached, the Greek language followed. This process was called Hellenization, the spreading of Greek culture, Greek thought, and most importantly, Greek language across the entire known world. By the time Alexander died at just 32 years old, Koine Greek had become the common tongue of the civilized world. Merchants used it, scholars wrote in it, even people who spoke their own native language learned Greek to participate in commerce and public life. Now stop and think about why this matters. When Jesus would eventually send his disciples to preach the gospel to all nations, they would not need a translator in every city. There was already a shared language that crossed every border and every culture. The entire New Testament would be written in Koine Greek, the very language Alexander spread, so that any literate person anywhere in the Roman world could read it. This was not an accident, this was preparation. Daniel 8, verse 21, had prophesied about the Greek Empire hundreds of years earlier, describing the shaggy goat as the king of Greece. God saw Alexander coming long before Alexander was born, and he used him as an instrument to prepare the world for the message of his son. There is a profound lesson here for our own lives. Sometimes God uses people and circumstances that seem completely unrelated to his purposes, people who do not even know him, to prepare the way for something he is about to do. Just as Alexander unknowingly prepared the world for the gospel, the difficult seasons in your own life may be God quietly preparing the conditions for something greater than you can currently see. The second thing that happened during the silence was that the Word of God was translated into Greek, making it accessible to the entire world for the very first time. Around 250 BC, in the great city of Alexandria, Egypt, a remarkable project began. A group of Jewish scholars, tradition says there were 70 of them, were commissioned to translate the Hebrew scriptures into Greek. This translation became known as the Septuagint, named from the Latin word for 70. This was a watershed moment in history. For centuries, the scriptures had been written in Hebrew, a language known only to the Jewish people. But now, for the very first time, anyone in the Greek-speaking world could read the promises of Abraham, the Psalms of David, the prophecies of Isaiah, and the warnings of Malachi. Think about what this meant. A Greek philosopher in Athens could now read Isaiah 53, written 700 years before Jesus, which described the coming Messiah in stunning detail. He was pierced for our transgressions, he was crushed for our iniquities. The punishment that brought us peace was on him, and by his wounds we are healed. Isaiah 53, verse 5. A Roman soldier in Syria could read Psalm 22, which described crucifixion with impossible accuracy centuries before crucifixion was even invented as a method of execution. They pierced my hands and my feet, Psalm 22, verse 16. The Septuagint meant that when the apostles went out preaching after the resurrection, they could walk into any synagogue or marketplace in the Roman world and open the scriptures, and their audience could follow along and verify every claim about Jesus for themselves. The New Testament writers quote the Septuagint extensively. It was the Bible of the early church, and it existed because of the 400 years of silence, because of a translation project completed by Jewish scholars in Egypt who had no idea what they were preparing. Here again we see the faithfulness of God. He was not silent. He was making his word available to the whole world so that when the time was right, nothing could stop it from spreading. The third thing that happened during the 400 years of silence is perhaps the most painful. The Jewish people endured wave after wave of foreign oppression, and in the process, their longing for the Messiah grew deeper and more urgent than ever before. After Alexander died, his empire was divided among his generals. The land of Israel fell under the control of two of these successor kingdoms. First, the Ptolemies of Egypt, and then the Seleucids of Syria. For most of the time under the Ptolemies, life was relatively peaceful. But that changed dramatically when the Seleucid king Antiochus IV came to power around 175 BC. Antiochus IV gave himself the title Epiphanes, which means God manifest. The Jewish people had another name for him. They called him Antiochus Epimanes, which means the madman. And what he did to the Jewish people was nothing short of madness. He marched into Jerusalem, looted the temple, and desecrated the most holy place on earth. He set up an altar to the Greek god Zeus inside the temple itself. He sacrificed a pig, the most unclean animal under Jewish law, on the altar of the Lord. He banned the reading of the Torah. He outlawed circumcision. He declared the Sabbath illegal under penalty of death. This event, the desecration of the temple in 167 BC, became known as the Abomination of Desolation. Jesus himself would later reference it in Matthew 24, verse 15, as a foreshadowing of events yet to come. The Jewish people did not accept this without a fight. A priest named Mattathias and his 5 sons rose up in revolt. His son Judas, nicknamed Maccabeus, meaning the hammer, led a miraculous guerrilla campaign against the vastly superior Seleucid army. Against all odds, they recaptured Jerusalem and rededicated the temple in 164 BC. This event is still celebrated today as Hanukkah, the Festival of Lights. But the suffering did not end there. After a brief period of Jewish independence under the Hasmonean dynasty, Rome arrived. In 63 BC, the Roman general Pompey marched into Jerusalem and brought the land of Israel under Roman control. The Jewish people were once again a conquered people living under foreign occupation. Why does all of this matter? Because by the time Jesus was born, the Jewish people had endured centuries of oppression. They had seen their temple desecrated. They had lived under Greek kings, Syrian tyrants, and Roman emperors. Their hunger for the Messiah, the promised deliverer who would rescue them, had never been greater. Psalm 130, verses 5 to 6, captures this exact longing. I wait for the Lord, my whole being waits, and in his word I put my hope. I wait for the Lord more than watchmen wait for the morning. God allowed his people to suffer, not to abandon them, but to make their hearts ready to receive what he was about to send. When Jesus arrived, the Jewish people were not comfortably settled. They were desperately waiting, and that desperation was part of God's design. The same is true for us. There are seasons when God allows us to go through prolonged difficulty, not because he has forgotten us, but because he is preparing our hearts to receive something that requires a deep hunger. A heart that is comfortable rarely cries out for a savior, but a heart that has suffered knows exactly what it needs. The fourth thing that happened during the 400 years of silence is extraordinary in its practical implications. Rome built the infrastructure that would carry the gospel to the ends of the earth. By the time Jesus was born, the Roman Empire covered an enormous portion of the known world, from Britain in the north to Egypt in the south, from Spain in the west to Syria in the east. And Rome was obsessed with control and efficiency. To maintain that control, the Romans built something unprecedented, a network of roads connecting every corner of their empire. At its peak, the Roman road system stretched over 250,000 miles. These roads were engineered masterpieces, straight, durable, and built to last for centuries. These roads were primarily built for military movement, but they became the highway system for the spread of the gospel. The Apostle Paul's missionary journeys, which we read about in the book of Acts, were possible largely because of Roman roads. He could travel from Antioch to Rome, from Jerusalem to Greece, covering thousands of miles in a way that would have been impossible just a century earlier. Rome also provided something else that made the spread of the gospel possible: the Pax Romana, the Roman peace. For roughly 2 centuries beginning around 27 BC, the Mediterranean world experienced an unprecedented period of relative peace and stability. Borders were open, trade flowed freely, travel was safer than it had ever been. Galatians 4, verse 4 captures this perfectly. But when the set time had fully come, God sent his Son, born of a woman, born under the law. The set time. God waited for the exact moment when the world was ready. He waited until there was a common language. He waited until the scriptures were translated. He waited until his people were hungry enough. He waited until the roads were built and the world was connected enough for the news of resurrection to spread to every nation. He did not arrive 1 year too early or 1 year too late. He arrived at exactly the right moment. The fifth and final thing that happened during the 400 years of silence is something most people never consider. During this period, the Jewish synagogue system spread throughout the entire Roman world, and in doing so, created a ready-made audience for the gospel in every city Paul would ever visit. The synagogue as an institution developed largely during and after the Babylonian exile, when the Jewish people were taken from their homeland and scattered. They could no longer worship at the temple in Jerusalem, so they began gathering in local communities to read the scriptures, pray, and maintain their identity as God's people. By the time of Jesus, there were synagogues, not just in Israel, but in virtually every major city across the Roman Empire: Alexandria, Rome, Corinth, Ephesus, Thessalonica, Athens. Every major center of population had a Jewish community with a synagogue at its heart. And synagogues were not closed communities. They welcomed Gentile seekers, people who were drawn to the monotheism and moral teaching of the Jewish faith but had not fully converted. These people were called God-fearers. Acts 10 introduces us to Cornelius, a Roman centurion, described as a devout man who feared God with all his household. When Paul arrived in a new city, his strategy was always the same. Acts 17 verse 2 tells us that, as was his custom, Paul went into the synagogue. There he would find Jews who already knew the scriptures and God-fearers who already believed in the God of Israel. He could open the Hebrew scriptures, the very Septuagint that had been translated during the 400 years of silence, and show them that Jesus was the fulfillment of every promise. The synagogue system meant that in every city in the Roman world, there were already people who knew the story of Abraham, who had read Isaiah's prophecies, who were waiting for the Messiah. Paul did not have to start from zero in every new location. The groundwork had been laid for centuries. This is the breathtaking wisdom of God. He was building his mission infrastructure long before the mission began. He was placing people in position, hungry people, searching people, prepared people, in every city where the gospel would eventually arrive. We began today by talking about 400 years of silence, but I hope by now you can see that it was never really silence at all. It was preparation, God was changing the world's language so his word could spread. He was translating his scriptures so all people could read them. He was allowing suffering to deepen the hunger of his people. He was building roads so his messengers could travel, and he was placing prepared hearts in every city where the gospel would go. All of it, every empire, every translation, every road, every synagogue, every moment of waiting was moving toward one single moment. When the set time had fully come, God sent his Son. Galatians 4, verse 4. And here is the personal truth that this history is trying to tell you. If you are in a season that feels like silence, if God seems distant and his promises seem delayed, you are not forgotten. You are not abandoned. You are in preparation. The 400 years of silence did not mean God had stopped working. It meant he was working on a level too large and too deep to be seen in the moment. And he is doing the same thing in your life right now. The silence is not the end of the story. It is the setup for something greater than you have yet imagined. Isaiah 40, verse 31 says it best. But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint. If this message spoke to your heart, subscribe to the channel so you never miss a new video. Share this with someone who needs to be reminded that God is always working, even in the silence. Like this video and leave a comment below telling us what part of this history surprised you the most. May God bless you and strengthen you in every season of waiting. See you in the next video.